listening to that testimony, I got distracted and I was looking at the Elon, I don't know, I wasn't even sure what it was, some crypto conference. And I was kind of glancing at that and listening to all these people that know all this, supposedly know all this stuff. And the thought came to me that some of those that are functioning, some of these people that are functioning in this new technology, and well, I don't want to get into conspiracy theory stuff or anything like that, but they're actually accessing the same thing that happened, as it was in the days of Noah, which I know that we all know that. And it just sort of irritated me as that thought came to me. And I thought, they're below the sun. We're above the sun. And so we're growing up to receive from above the sun, from the Lord. And I don't even know how that even connects with the whole testimony thing, but the fact that I was able to access that testimony in the now, in this moment, and it was like everything that concerns me is being perfected as I was taking joy in what was going on with Carolyn and all the rest of you as I hear it. Everything is taken care of. So again, I live in a realm that does not have lack, and it is timeless. Thank you, Jeff.
Absolutely.
Some of it kind of goes over my head, but I just take it in and just move forward with it. Again, like Carolyn was saying, I'm realizing that my priority has got to be face to face, forehead to forehead, breath to breath with Yahweh. And out of that, I'm learning how to connect with sweet wisdom and wonderful understanding. And then as I'm listening to this testimony, this other thought's coming to my head. It's like there's union with the Godhead as we are right now at this moment, woven into the very fabric of Hashalush HaKodesh. At the same time, the power, the reproductive power of the testimony is I'm also being woven into the fabric of my brothers and my sisters right now. That is the advantage that we have, is that union. And so because the Lord's kind of prompted in my head that it's really critical, unity. And being in the church age for as long as I've had, that word is almost overused sometimes. So I'm just relearning what that actually means. And right now, as I'm looking at your beautiful faces, I'm reminded, yes.
That's right. Unity doesn't mean do what I say.
Yeah.
Or do what everyone else says.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can be different and in union. And that's beautiful.
What's interesting about what you said, what came to mind, Lisa, is when you think about not to focus on corruption on the earth, but you have ideologies on the earth that are corrupt, and you have a group of people that are quote unquote following this ideology, but they do not have the union because of the chaos within themselves. They are still, even as a group, they are disjointed. And so you are so spot on that the advantage that we have is that we're in true union with each other as we're in union with the Godhead. So good. That's so good.
And to add to that, being in unity and being in union is knowing the abundance that we have, and that if there's something that you need, that if I have it, I can offer it and give it to you and not have to operate in fear of, but I won't have it, I'll be in lack. But knowing that I am limitless and I can give you all that I have, and it operates out of the spirit realm, that I'm going to get an abundance of more. It will be multiplied to me more by being faithful with the little and knowing who I am. And in that place, it's totally different from this realm. And it's training your brain pathways, retraining them, renewing your mind so that you can think like Jesus did and have the mind of Christ. it's totally letting go of control, learning, you know, because that place of control, yes, there's things that we can do. We're smart people. We weren't created to be stupid. We can think on our own. But in that place where we operate and we do everything on our own, we can do it, but it will have limits. But when we operate from our seated place, from being seated with the Father and knowing his heart and allowing to let go of that control, but yet letting our mouth and our hands and feet still be his to work through, then he can allow all things to come together and operate the way he had planned it. Because when we control, we block that. But when we give it up and surrender out of that place of surrender, he's able to do more than we could ever think or imagine.
Can I just share something that Papa showed me about unity a while back? He always uses plays on words with me and configures the same words. And so mine was you and I tie, so YOU, and then hyphen N hyphen TIE. And it's really, and that's really what unity is. And I just saw just two ends of a shoestring, the same shoestring, and you got them in two, you know, you put them in the little eyelets of the shoe, and you know, you're away from each other, but there's that tension, and then you kind of go through the eyelets and the eyelets and the eyelets, and then pretty soon, you know, you're all the way up top, and you tighten, and then you make the knot, and you and I tie. And so there are times when, you know, we agree on things and whatnot, but I really like so you and I tie, like Eric said, we don't have to agree, but it also gives us the freedom to leave if we want to. So, and that's the cool thing about, you know, our relationship with Papa or anybody. We have the freedom. Love gives us the choice to be able to untie from that. And to me, and you know what? We're all made of the same stuff. We all have the same DNA. We all have, you know, the Yod He Vav He is woven in us, you know, throughout all our being. So even if we're, you know, we untie and we feel like we're not connecting, there's still that connecting to that piece of who we are. We are the original on this side. I'm the original on this side. And then when Papa does whatever we're doing and he ties us together, it brings us together. And then if it really goes, he can double knot us. You know how we do with kids, you know, double knot your shoes so it doesn't come untied. You know, I work in the schools, so I am saying that a lot. Your shoes are untied, you know.
And I still do it.
Exactly. And I think that's a great example of, you know, relationships nowadays. There's a lot of untied shoes. And they're tripping over whatever comes along, whether it's, you know, anything under the sun, they're tripping on. You know, and then you have somebody that comes along, they're one of us that says, hey, you need to tie your shoe, dude. Time that you, you know, you're coming out of your shoes or whatever, and you know, let me help you with that. And then you go and you tie the shoe, and can you double knot it, please? And so we double knot it, and then they go on their way and play. But it's that connecting point. I think Papa does that. I mean, a good dad does that with their kiddos. Suck it. Yep.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting you bring up the tying because I'm in that phase with my boys and their shoes, right? Like you're talking about, and somehow the parent-child dynamic is a little different than the teacher-child dynamic. Like they're a little more obstinate about how they want or when they want their shoes tied, and you know, you get into kind of a fisticuffs, you know, like do it, you know, and they don't want to, or they don't want to learn, and you're like, ugh, and so you have to become patient with their learning style, and have become patient in the process. This is the long-suffering side of parenting, where you want them to respond and act now in a certain way, but they are hitting blocks. They just can't mentally do it. They're not capable. Their emotions are in the way. And that's just children in life, but we have children in the church, maybe full-grown adults that still act like children in that regard. And as mature sons, older brothers, sisters, we have to long suffer even with them. Only, and the reason why is because Father does it with us. So that's the only reason why. If he does it with me, then I'm required to do the same with those, even though, I don't want to. I want them to learn to tie their own shoes. Sometimes I have to continue to tie their shoes until they finally get the aha moment. And, this is how it works. Because part of it is they're frustrated. My boys get frustrated. They do the lot, and I just can't get that thing to work. And, you do it so easily. And so the frustration causes them to shy back from learning. And sometimes it's just the patience of coming alongside and saying, okay, I'll tie it one more time. This is how you do it. Some people don't have that ability. Some have more ability to tell someone to do it again and again and again and again and again and not get bent out of shape. Others are like, I told you once, go do it. Go figure it out on your own. I don't have the patience to deal with you. And so, we got to find the people that can do both, hopefully, but and make them all part of the community so that we can pass them off to those, because there's things I don't want to do that you can do, and you have patience for, and you don't have patience for things that I can do, and so you hand them off to me. So we have to have a community of shoe tires that can do this, or belt, help people dress in different ways, just to take the metaphor a little bit further, or analogy. But long suffering is so critical to the development of a mature community, as we help those that don't have the capacity yet, but you don't know when it's going to snap. You don't know when it's going to turn on, right? You don't know what is going to be the trigger, what right word, what phrase will turn the light bulb on, and then they've got it. So you just keep talking at them. You keep training them, you keep teaching them, and eventually it will pop. But we have to, as older, mature sons, say, I'm willing to run the course with you, even though this may be longer than I'd like, because the goal is relationship, the goal is your success, is tied into my success. Then let's do this, and I'm here, man. Even if you fall flat on your face in the mud, I'll be here to help you wipe it off.
Yeah, that's a really good subject for us to mature in, is constantly being so aware that when we're triggered, where's that coming from? Where's that root? So just taking that time to go by, and go into Father and say, what's going on here? Where's it at? And it may be a place where you're stuck, so it may just be a place that you need deliverance from. It could be in your past. It could be, in your bloodline, and cleaning up all of that. And sometimes, it just seems like, man, this is a full-time job in itself, but it's so necessary to clean all that up and be fresh, because as soon as you get the junk cleared, Father has room to put something new in.
Right, definitely.
And then even more junk. Yay!
What?
I started with the boulders, worked down through the rocks, then we start getting the pebbles, and then smaller pebbles.
Well, that's interesting, because we were just talking about that today, Paul and I, this morning, about how as you mature, the little small granular issues now are your focus. You're not dealing with gross sin, right? You're dealing with now things that are refining. And as I was saying earlier to him, it's the last bit of refining, which is the more challenging and more critical to clicking over into transfiguration, right? It's the last bit of stuff. It's the proofing. It's the final polishing that takes even more energy, because it's a micro thing. Whereas macro, you can just take a sledgehammer at it. You know exactly what to do. But the macro stuff is the nitty-gritty, tiny granular stuff that are the remainder of those triggers that are the last things that the accuser, the adversary, still has a hook in. But they're so small that you need fine-tuned tools to go in and do it. You need to focus so it feels like more energy, but it's just that last few feet of the crest to get to the top, but that's where we're at, right? We're maturing now, and so now we're digging into the nitty-gritty stuff and refining those detailed things that really bring out the luster of who we're supposed to be.
I think it was you, Piper, that might have talked about the fiery darts, you know, and going into the original language, and wherever I heard it, it was mentioned. It was irritations. There were irritations, and at the time I was looking into what overcoming was, and it's more offensive than defensive. You know, it's attacking and invading or overcoming those daily irritations and our crucibles, you know, with the daily entanglements and the engagements and the assignments that we have, just, you know, getting up every day and taking in the day, the news of the day, whatever that is, filtering that, and just your dealing, you know, with each other, family and friends and work and all those sorts of things. And,
right, it's shifting from the surviving to the thriving.
Yeah.
Because when we stepped across the threshold, we were like, I needed to survive. What do I got to do just to survive and make it into heaven, kind of thing, right? Now it's shifting away from this mentality of I got to survive and make sure that I'm, you know, being clean. And now it's pushing into the thriving. What can I do? What can I streamline? What can I restructure so that I'm actually getting more out of my day, more out of who I'm supposed to be? And so it's moving from just day-to-day survival to a thriving and pulling out more of the zest, more of the excitement, more of what really makes me who I am in my day. And that's sometimes more work, right? I mean, to go take it to like doing an education thing, going from a B to an A, you know, it's only 10 points, but those last 10 points are that much more effort. It's like it's just kicking into another gear to get that A plus, even from an A. So we're in that place where, yeah, we got, you know, we're making 90%. Maybe we slip into the 89% sometimes for grades, you know, but we're pushing into the 95%, and we're like, we want to go the full 100%. We want the extra credit, 104%. And that's part of that, right? We're just trying to move into a thriving lifestyle.
Yeah, and it truly does shift the atmosphere too. And I'll just be a little open here and give you an example of a couple of days ago, you know, when you get a little test in front of you and you completely fail it, you just like, you blow it out the water, you know? So I'm having flooring done in my dining room. And right now, for some reason, all of our schedules are full. Everyone in my household has 2 or 3 things on the plate every single day. So I'm really working off of a very rigid calendar, you know, and so everything's flowing. I've got something, you know, the flooring's coming this day. The next day I'm going out of town, and then I'm going to go out of town from that area to another place out of town. And so it's all working. I've got my calendar flowing really good. Well, the guy shows up to do my flooring, and he's like, I didn't realize that there's glue down wood floor here I have to remove. And I'm like, oh, okay. He said, I don't have my jackhammer. I have to go to the office to get it. And I'm like, oh, okay. He said, so I'm just not going to do it today. I'll come back tomorrow. And I'm like, no, you know, you can't do that. Tomorrow doesn't work for me. And he was like, well, I'd have to go all the way back to the shop. And I'm like, well, where's your shop? And he said, it's 25 minutes away. I said, okay, 25 minutes there, 25 minutes back. He said, but I'll have to work till 7 or 8 o'clock tonight. I'm like, no, 6 or 7, he says. And I'm like, I'm okay with that. And he's like, but you don't understand. I don't know how long it's going to take me. It's glue down. It might even be more than that. I'll just come back tomorrow. And I'm like, you can't. I have to have this job done today. You know, I'm very excited. And so he's like, well, now you're mad at me. I'm like, I'm not mad at you. Tomorrow doesn't work for me. It has to be done today. Whatever you have to do to make it happen, you know? And this wasn't exactly the tone that I was speaking in, you know? And so he, he's just like, I'm sorry you're inconvenienced, man, but I'm not doing this today. And I'll have them get in touch with you. So I'm like, okay. So I did not know that to have wood floor done, when you go into, like, I went into Lowe's and I said, I need wood floor done. Got glue down. I want to match it the best I can because I like what's there. And I have other wood floor that's similar. I want to make sure I'm kind of keeping in the flow. So I pick out something, we order it. We've got an installer coming. Well, I didn't know I have to specifically tell them I need you to take that floor off. Like, that was never addressed. So here I go. The guy leaves. Now I have to repent before the Father because I know whatever reason the guy didn't want to work that day is between him and the Father. But my tone and my attitude was not good. So I'm like, Father, and here I go. I repent, I was triggered. So was it me? Is it in my bloodline? Let's just deal with this. Let's get this out of the way. So I tried to look up the next morning the little guy's number to see if I had it because I wanted to tell him, I'm sorry. My tone and my attitude was not correct. And I just want you to know I am sorry. Well, I didn't have his number, so I'm like, Father, okay, I can't do anything about this, but, anyway, here I go. So the little guy left, and he said, this lady's irritated at me. I'm not going to do this job. Put someone else on it. And I told the little girl, I probably think that's probably a good idea. Because the little guy really could have went and got the jackhammer, come back and work. If he couldn't finish it that day, he could come the next morning because I was his appointment today, and tomorrow he didn't have anything. That's why he was able to come back. I would have been okay leaving a half a day to go out of town. So, now I've got to get everything going with my husband, and he has to take off, like all kinds of things have to happen. The next day, the guy comes and he's like, and I'm like, oh, probably you've already heard probably that I'm the lady with the attitude. My tone and attitude was bad. I'm sorry. You will not have to deal with that today. And he's like, well, ma'am, I just want to let you know up front, glue down is a booger. I don't know that I will be able to take all of this up and lay it and pull the glue, for the lay and do all this in one day. And I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. You might not be able to do it today. And he said, no, glue down, you just never know. I might. He said, I might be able to. He said, but I'm just letting you know up front. I'm fixing to start this, and we'll just have to see how it goes. Well, I changed my attitude. So I told him, I said, put your hand up. And I high-fived him. I said, in the name of Jesus, this is going to be easy as pie. It's going to come up. It's not going to give you any problem, and you will finish it today. 5 minutes into that jackhammer, he says, ma'am, I'm going to be able to finish this today. In 2 hours, he had all that floor up, and he said, in about 2 hours, I'll be out of here. I'm going to go pick up me a trowel and a couple of things I need, and I'm going to come back. He was out of my house by 2:30. He didn't get started till 10. So that just shows when you go, but I really believe if I would not went before the Father and taken care of that glue probably would have been so hard. He would have, it would have continued until, like Andy says, the testimony is to do it again, Lord. When that's what it is. That's your testimony. Whenever something happens, you get to tell it again so the Father can do it again. So anyway, I just thought I'd be real and give you an example of what happens when we fail the test, but then how the Lord blesses and honors, and you have favor when you do the right thing, straighten your act up, come before Him, how He blesses. I have power, and I can speak what needs to happen in this realm.
That's right.
I'm not going to do that again. I want to do the other thing again.
Well, and that's true. We have authority. That's something that Yahweh gave to us as sons, as human, as mankind. We have the authority with our breath to frame up whatever world we want, whether it's one of life or one of death. But we have the choice every day to make that. And we live the world that we breathe out of our mouth. Doesn't matter who we are. Every member of the mankind species has that power given to us specifically, as the God-breathed divine spark of creativity. And how we choose to use it is what we get to live in. We are the maker of our worlds, and we don't really realize it. But I mean, thinking about, if you hadn't done what the high five and the whole declaration, you would have continued living in the previous breath, and however that would have expressed itself in the next day. But you shifted your breath to change the world that you wanted to live in. Whether you felt it or not, you willed it, right? And then spoke it, and then shifted, and were able to live in a new realm.
And the contractor as well, when I spoke that, it shifted him into a positive attitude. But he knew what I was talking about, because when I did that, he said, speak it forth.
Yeah.
You
So
know,
you changed the physical
speak it
structure
forth.
of that glue and the floor. You changed atoms to be more malleable to the effort that you also helped energize another human being to do. That's science.
And he had the choice to get off early or not. Come
That's
on.
right.
I'm
Yeah.
having an early
Well,
day.
He could have totally
For
wrecked
another
it and made
project.
work for himself.
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, and the funny thing was, he said if the guy yesterday would have put forth just a little effort, he had a crowbar, he could have took this up with a crowbar. It was so easy, and he would have been finished, and finished early yesterday, and this whole job would have been done. But he didn't even try to put forth any effort whatsoever.
So from a science perspective, I mean, so think about the frequency that he was displaying, right? So there was dissonance between the two of you. And it's, so how do as we desire to live in a higher frequency, how do we overcome that dissonance? You know, and we want to arc with an individual. It's not going the right way. What do we do? You know, and so it's just it's fascinating just when you arc with humanity, and we come across a lot of negativity. And again, the way I look at it, it doesn't necessarily make us feel good, make me feel good, but I do recognize that it's opportunity for us to deal with the things that are on the inside. And you know, and if you're impatient, then I'm gonna be just a little bit more patient than I was yesterday. And again, you know, after 63 days, you've rewired your brain, and you just don't wake up impatient to patient. It's the daily interactions of being impatient over an extended period of time that eventually, boom, it clicks, and it's just, wow, man, usually I get triggered. I'm in a different mode today. This is good. And, you know, obviously you become more patient without realizing. Yeah,
well, that's the interesting thing about the relational dynamic, right? The synergistic dynamic of relationship is that the idea that 2 or 3 gathered in my name, you know, it's done, is leveraging that synergistic interaction of compounding the energies of 2 to create a greater force, a greater transformation.
This reminds me of David Van Koovering, and I don't know that I know the correct word, but he says they're like protons out there, and whatever you speak, that's what feels and comes back and manifests. So are we going to fill it with negative, you know, the wrong thing? Are we going to speak life, speak the abundance, and speak the limitlessness, and speak the good things that we have authority over, and then let that come back and shift the atmosphere and cause it to be?
Our observation creates
Yes.
a manifestation of choice.
Right.
And how all that works out, you know, there's details, I'm sure. But without a doubt, our awareness changes matter. Period.
What you observe, you create.
And that's really critical to think about as we mature and clean ourselves and clean our gates, so to speak, because, you know, what's in here is part of what's created. So if there's corruption, what we observe will create corruption, will reproduce corruption. If there's incorruption in us, what we've observed to create will produce the incorruptible. And so this is why Yeshua says, it's not what you put in your mouth that makes you corrupted, it's what comes out of your mouth. It's what you speak. It reveals what's corruption in you. And so you need to remove the corruption within so that you create the incorruptible on your breath. And that's why I say mankind, regardless of their status of being corrupted or corruptible, doesn't matter. They have the ability to create with their breath. And the world is full of things that have been created out of the corruptiveness of man's heart. Even with good intentions. Good intentions will never remove the corruption out of things. I mean, to help humanity. Well, it will eventually end in corruption because it has been produced from a corruptive state. So that's why we are called to come into the incorruptible place, be transmuted inside, so that what comes out when we create it, when we observe, and then it comes from wave to photon and becomes matter, it is created incorruptible because it comes from a being that is incorruptible and not from a being that's corrupted.
One of the things, Mississippi, when you were talking, that to me you displayed is the being of humility, right? So you walking in humility, humbling yourself before Dad and engaging, that's humility.
Right.
Yep.
That's good. And
Yeah.
you possess that, and that's awesome, right? Because the
You know,
opposite,
and
if you had waited a couple of days or got more aggravated, would have been then you're walking in more pride. And just being aware,
yeah,
of what state that we're in at the time, so then we can make those decisions and choices and connect the dots to have a good desired outcome, which you got your floor done. So there you go.
yeah, and that's what the word says. Agree with the adversary quickly. So as soon as I was to a place that, Father, I could feel the Holy Spirit speaking to me, and my family's around. So my husband's here, my daughter-in-law's here, my grandboys are here. They know I'm triggered, and my daughter-in-law comes in and she's like, "Do you want to talk about it, or do you need a minute?" And I'm like, "No, I can talk about it." But for her to, it's okay to be triggered and show the rawness of something, but it's important to see your family, to see you clean up that mess, to see you say, "Yes, I've had some repenting I've had to do. I'm before the Father. I'm looking for the guy's phone number. I'm going to apologize. I can't find it." And she said, "I'm sure it's okay, because it was my obedience. It was my intention. It was the intent of my heart that the Father can, do whatever he needs to do with him." And then to see when it comes in where I could be triggered again, but it was a true learning experience. And for her to see, me go a totally different in the correct way, and then see the end result. So all of that was a testimony just for my family to say, "Hey, Grandma T got triggered. She cleaned it up. She didn't get triggered again. And she spoke and used her authority. And look what a blessing. Look at the outcome. Look at the favor that Father put all on her."
Right.
Because they're going to do it too. And they're going to need to say, "Yep, but there's steps here. There's a protocol."
That's the lead into trading. I mean, that's kind of the trading pillar of QRST, is that even the interaction between the two individuals, the exchanging for the mutual benefit of one another, grows and it affects the macro benefit of the community directly, but more often indirectly. And so when we trade with individuals, if we have that in our mind, that when I'm trading for the benefit of the other, I also am trading for the benefit of the community. And we forget that a lot. in what we do. We often just think about, I mean, at the lowest level, we just think about it for our own benefit. Did we get a good deal out of this? You know, and the next level is, did both of us get a good deal out of it? You know, I'm teaching my boys to, when you do trading with your brothers, are you really trading to benefit your brother too, or are you just trying to get the best out of this deal? But then it goes to the next level of benefiting the community. Now this trade, is it going to benefit me, my brother, and my family? And that begins to stretch your capacity to trade at a higher level, because now you're not just thinking about, you know, yourself in the trade and the benefit of yourself or even the other. You're thinking, how is this going to affect and increase the benefit of the whole? And that's, you know, again, what you're saying. In that one interaction, your shift in your trade and exchange with the contractor rolls out into the family dynamics as well, as that they observe and they learn. They're part of that trade as well. So now our trading and exchanging now affects our role, but then it affects everybody in that world that you're interacting with.
You could think of it as the example of the shoe that I had used earlier. The shoestrings, but you got all the eyes that you're putting the shoestring in. You think of that as the family kind of weaving in and out and in and out, and it takes two ends to tie the shoe. So there has to be a common goal at the end for that shoe to be tied well to bring unity. So then, you know, whatever it's in, able to go and have its purpose.
Yeah.
So
Good. It's good.
Yeah. And we always,
Otherwise, the laces are going to come undone and you're going to trip over yourself.
exactly.
And that's not the desired outcome that you want.
yeah, and it's been truly an experience this, you know, this year having the family live with me while my son's deployed. So, but just trying to show them that every decision you make does not only affect you, it affects everyone else around you.
That's all I gotta say. Well, I could tell a story if you feel like hearing just a, you know, you heard about Tina's floors. You want to hear about my saggy air suspension and how my car earned her name?
Go ahead. Give it to
All right,
us.
I'm in the middle of downtown Savannah on Airbnb, and we're staying in the historical district. And it's a nightmare down there on Saturday night. That's when we're arriving, Saturday night, by choice, because I didn't think ahead. Like, wait. What's the worst time you can go to a downtown city with pedestrian open beer laws? Open container law. What's the worst time you can choose to go somewhere there's scooters, drunk people, and horses? In a city that was built almost 200 years ago with some planners, all right? So I get there, and I'm in my mother-in-law's town car, right? Wonderful. I mean, an incredible ability to be able to borrow this thing and take it on trips, and she's going to end up giving it to us. So it's I can't be anything but grateful until I've been sniffing, like, man, I don't know, something about this rear suspension ain't acting right. I talked to the mechanic. He's like, I don't know, if it ain't working, come see me. I'm like, that is not helping me, man. So I get down there. I got it loaded with people, more full than this car has probably ever been in its life. It's got, you know, like a whole trunk load of stuff, and you can fit a subcompact in that trunk. And I'm down on these like almost cobblestone streets. There is no loading zone. It is right in front of a fire hydrant and a busy noodle kitchen. Great noodles, by the way. And it's surrounded by people. And I realized that I don't do well now. I used to love it. I used to thrive on the chaos, but now I'm like, it's a pressure wave. And that's when the light on the dash goes, check air suspension.
Yes.
Not an hour earlier, I had spoken into existence those very encouraging words, like, it's going to go great. I sent my angel ahead to prepare the way, and I'm like, this is going to be awesome. I spoke that. 30 minutes later, I'm about to lose my freaking mind. Like, to the point where I'm like, burn this city to the ground. All of it. The whole thing. I could have chucked a hand grenade in the trunk of that car, watched it explode, and walked away without a single thought. That's the switch of that. I was like, really? I spoke as a son, and this is how you're going to respond, man. And I lost it, and I became a different person at that point. I had nothing to say but good. Man, thank you, Yahweh, because if I had been flowing as a son, I would have been like Simeon, and or is that the right one, or Reuben? Can't remember which one. They like destroyed a whole village because he was feeling cranky about it. Would have done that, right? And instead of being enlivened by the energy around me, it was chaos, and it was right after I'd spoken something positive. But now I know that I can't hide in the dark anymore, and it is really embarrassing to look at the group of people and go that I was just with, we were listening to praise music. And I'm like, auditioning for a gang membership in the middle of downtown Savannah, throwing a fit in my mother-in-law's Lincoln because it's got a warning light. So, like, apparently, all it takes to trigger me is a few people and a lack of parking and the potential for automotive trouble. Man, I went through about 7, 8, 10 stages of grief, man, on that. But ashamed of myself. But those are real. Did I mess up going into that? No, I think I was doing pretty good. I don't think I planned incorrectly. But it revealed that, okay, I'm really afraid of a car breaking down. And the energy of a place is intimidating when I don't step into who I am. The next night, that night I got to hang out outside, and for me, I like to get a feel for the place I'm in. And I'm realizing part of that is moving my mountain. As Ian would call it, I feel uncomfortable. Everything's a threat, and I'm watchful and wary. And then I was like, I hung out on the street, 2:00 in the morning, got to see where the homeless sleep and how the people interact and where this does that. And I felt like, okay, I'm getting a feel for it. I'm okay. Well, that's me moving my mountain in, but I'm just unaware. Like that could have happened with intentionality, and I skip even having to figure out the vibration of a place and the circumstances got to line up. I carry that with me. Don't know what that looks like, exactly. I don't think it's supposed to have a formula, but it's good. Like those things come up, and now that's at a granular level the way I live my life, and it's those moments where I could ruin so many good things by coming into a situation without my identity, without my authority, without compassion and love, and start wrecking things, and nothing good's going to come of that. But there's so much more when I come in with my frequency, and I'm navigating the eddies of things around me, and I'm not passively receiving. I'm actively putting out into the world. You're changing the way glue sticks, and it works, even if it doesn't work. Like even if it, whatever, it doesn't have to. The circumstances become less important after that point, and it starts going good right away. I don't even know where that story was going, but I felt like I needed to tell you.
Yeah,
and her name's Betty. Her name's Betty. She earned it, because her rear end goes boop sometimes. Betty, you gotta keep your boop up. Come on now.